Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 2, Episode 4, D.U.I. This is a pretty cool episode. I think it had some, not as epic, I would say, as the last episode, but I thought this had some pretty cool action sequences in it. The action was very, it was tense in the last one too, but it was tense for important characters, not to not care about the kids that got like completely slaughtered, but they had some tense moments for actual, the main cast members in this episode. And I thought that was pretty cool, particularly at the end of the episode, but pretty much the whole thing. Thanks to Pablo going up to the car really early on in the episode, and then of course he gets latched in and he's along for the ride, and he goes through one of his crazy vision things. Like, it's hard. Like, normally when I think visions, I think of people seeing the actual future, which is what they talked about before. And I mentioned this during that episode when he was with Ruby, and he has a vision where she strings him up, and then she like slits his throat and stuff. And I'm like, I guess technically they are visions. They just aren't visions of the future like they initially thought. Like, he had that one glimpse of her in the first episode, but after that, all of his things have just been him going crazy. Like, even in the first episode when he saw the homeless guy said like help or something, and it changed, and he was seeing like hell and stuff like that. So he has. I prefer to call them hallucinations. I don't know why. I guess I always think when I think visions, I think you're seeing the future. But it was crazy. I don't know what this is supposed to be leading up to, but it's really weird. Like, he goes through this whole crazy sequence where he gets impaled and like the girl is killed, um, and he has this thing going like all the way through him. And at first, I thought it was actually the case, and I thought something else was going to happen initially. And then as it continued on, I'm like, this is definitely one of the crazy visions that he's having. And it goes through, and they have Ash show up, and that's kind of why I thought it was real, because I'm like, I don't know if the visions would ever get to the point where they have like a real, seemingly real Ash, where he's like being silly. He's just like, all right, let's just take it out, which is a stupid idea. So they go through that, and it does end up being a vision, and it's like, that was really weird, because I doubt he's about to get into a car crash and get impaled. And they aren't visions where it almost happens, but he does something to change the future. So he's not seeing the future. He's just being given crazy hallucinations by the Necronomicon. And so when they go through that, I'm like, all right, this is very interesting. The book actually talks with him in this episode as well, which I really enjoyed. And it gets to a really crazy point when we get to the end of the episode. And so we have Ruby and Kelly going off to do their own thing, where it's like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to stop my children. And that way they can't raise this character named Ball. And this guy, who's going to be showing up in the next episode, he technically, I guess, shows up at the end of this one. He has some sort of sway over Ruby. She kind of, as Kelly points out, she trails off. And she's just like, he has some sort of control, and he's manipulating and intimidating and all these things kind of balled up into one. So I don't know if he's going to really be like the big bad, and that's what's happening. Like, he's raised from hell, and then he's the main villain for the rest of the season. And I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, because we haven't really had a main villain yet. It's just been the kids. It's the teenagers now, I don't know, the dark ones. So we've had them, and that's really it. And random regular Deadites. So I'm assuming Ball coming into this next episode is going to kind of kickstart the main villain storyline for this season, which I'm very excited to see. And if not, it'll at least be an interesting stopgap to whatever the case is going to be after him, if he does truly get defeated in this next episode. But we have Kelly and Ruby going off, and they're trying to do their thing and fight it with each other. And of course, like I said in the last episode, I knew that wouldn't work, because that's just how it is in TV. Two people go off, it doesn't matter who it is. They're like, you know what, they aren't doing it, so we're just going to do it ourselves. And it never works. It doesn't matter who tries to do that. It just fails. It always fails. Even in superhero shows, it's like, we're the two superheroes who have these great powers, and it still fails, even though they have superpowers. It has to be the whole team all the time. So, of course, they almost really get killed during that scene. And then we have, of course, it cuts to, I keep wanting to say Bruce, but Ash and Pablo. And so they're going through this whole situation where the Delta goes back to basically the Derby, where it was bought from by Ash's father. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's just, as Chet pointed out, in a very funny scene. I really love that scene, because Ash is just like, yeah, it's going back to the Derby place because that's where I first did it in the in the back seat. And he was like, oh, I figured it was because that's where your dad got the car, so it was going back and he killed him as sort of a cry for help, and then it's going back to the place where it all began. And I wish I could think of the actual thing. He said like something like the cathartic secular system or something like that, and he's like, yeah, Chad, it could be that too. I really thought that was a funny scene, but they finally get to the Derby, and it's just nuts. It's just a crazy scene where Pablo is still stuck in the car. This girl is stuck in the car like the whole episode until she finally goes free, and then she just bolts. Like she's just gone by the end of the episode. Like they're finally able to get out once it's unlocked. I don't think they even show her actually leave the Derby, but she's gone. Like she opens up that door and she like vanishes. Like she takes off after that. So she might show up in the next episode, but she was gone from the thing. It was like I saw a bunch of my friends get killed by this crazy car. It's forced me, it's like strapped me down using the seatbelts and stuff. She was out of there. Pablo gets out, so of course he's kind of dealing with that. Ash has to fight the car and actually destroy it in the end. But unfortunately, Pablo is tricked by the Necronomicon. He's told that, of course, it would, if he just says the word, it would banish, the Necronomicon back to hell. And I guess technically it did, but I'm assuming it was sort of a typical spell. Like, oh, you got what you want, but I also get what I want. So the Necronomicon is banished to hell, and that allows for a ball to, basically shoot out of the trunk of the car at the end of the episode, which is a nice little sort of jump scare type ending. So I actually kind of like that. But I am excited for what they're going to do for this next episode. They have this character that even Ruby appears to be afraid of, and we've seen her die. She kind of died in the last season when she was like thrown into the fire and stuff, and she still came back from that. So there's some interesting things going on there. We got a cool action sequence with Ruby and Kelly where they were teaming up and they were, killing off the kids, but they weren't doing the best job. Like they ultimately made it, but then they were kind of getting surrounded, and then everything, kind of was said and done on both sides of the fence once the Necronomicon was gone, and it caused a very serious pain um, for Ruby. Like it physically hurt her. So I'm pretty sure she's gonna be a little upset in this next episode. Like, you idiots, threw the Necronomicon into hell, assuming that that's what you had to do, but that's not exactly the case. So I'm excited for how things are going to play out, specifically with Ruby's character, because it's like, what's going to happen there? Like, what influence is the character Ball going to have over her? Is it going to be where she's turned evil a little bit? Does she have a physical attraction to him, or like, a sexual attraction? Because that's the way they made it seem at first, where it's like she doesn't want to be attracted to this guy, but she is. And then when she kind of goes into it, where it's like he's manipulating and intimidating and stuff like that, it's like, okay, maybe there's, I feel like there's still a part of that is like sexual manipulation, where he, pretends to be so interested in her and stuff like that, and kind of somewhat gives her, what she wants, but ultimately it's all for him. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But this is a fun episode. Excited for the next one. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, I have to ask, what are you guys expecting from Ball? Like, is he going to be our main villain? Is he just going to be the first big villain? Because we really haven't had like a big villain. They've all been normal Deadites and the Dark Ones. So is he going to be our main villain for the rest of the season? Just a couple episodes and then we move on to the rest of the season, I guess? Or is something else crazy going to happen with him? So I would love to know your predictions, and of course what you thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.